Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Ballerina: Rules and Consequences. Hello, I'm J-Law, but you can call me Justin. And if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things geek-centric. And today, you are joining us for our spoiler-free review from the World of John Wick, Ballerina, which is hitting theaters June 6th. So full disclosure, we are recording this review super early. My geeks are still in Japan. But I was lucky enough to attend an early screening with a killer dude who is joining me for this review because I can't do this alone. Please welcome from One Take News. Please welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, Thomas Ellindis from One Take News. How are you, dude?
Doing great, Justin. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to talk about this one.
Yeah, man, I'm thrilled that when you offered, you said, hey, if you come to the screening, I'll jump on the podcast with you, because everyone was off in Japan. But yeah, Thomas, please share a little bit more. Who are you? What do you do?
All right, so my name is Thomas Ellindis. I run One Take News. I've been running it since 2021. I'm a one-man show. I do the same thing as Justin. I love covering movies, television, anything in the entertainment world. Sometimes we throw a little bit of sports in there, especially with Prime getting the hockey stuff. You know, it's really up my alley.
Yeah.
But I just love talking about movies. I love interviewing the people who made me what I am today. I'm studying film in university right now. So these things go really hand in hand for me. And it's been a great learning experience, as well as just living out my dream. Get to watch movies and make content. It's really exciting. So you can find me at One Take News on Instagram and X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Same on YouTube. And then at the One Take News on TikTok. Please follow us there because we got some really cool stuff coming up.
Dude, your reels and TikToks are absolute fire. You are definitely taking some of the best moments from your interviews. You know how to cut them down and make them really engaging. So yeah, definitely check out One Take News on Instagram and TikToks. They got some fire stuff, and I'm going to be putting everything in the show notes so people can follow you. And we'll circle back at the end here just as a reminder for everyone to check it out. But now, before we start talking about this film, I do have a question for you in regards to this movie. And this is part of a effort to kind of build out the world of John Wick and make more of a universe out of it. Now, again, before we start talking about it, I wanted to know, do you feel like this is in the right direction to help flesh out that world of John Wick a bit more rather than just relying on that main character?
That's a really good question, actually, because I do think that the world building done in the first four movies was excellent.
Mhm.
I think they did it at a really good pace. And what I mean by that is they didn't introduce too much in one movie. And I think
Right.
that's the problem a lot of franchises have. Most recently, I think Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning. I mean, just because we saw it recently, that's the first example that comes to mind. But the John Wick franchise has always done a good job of slowly introducing you to things. That way, when you're watching the next movie, you're not confused. You're not like, huh, what's going on? It just kind of makes sense, or it's just like the small little things that are easy to understand or intuitive. And I think for the most part, Ballerina continues that. But again, I say for the most part because I think that's also kind of one of the movie's downfalls. The way they introduce things, whether it's a pacing problem or it's just introduced at the wrong time or it makes no sense. But for the most part, I do think that it succeeds on that front in expanding the John Wick universe. And I think it did a better job of expanding the John Wick universe than, say, the Continental show, which...
I didn't watch that. I actually forgot that existed when I was doing research. I was like, oh yeah, there was a whole show that was meant to kind of flesh out that side of the world. And it's interesting that there's just such a commitment to wanting to build a universe around the fact that the success of the franchise from a singular character's perspective. It feels like with this movie, Ballerina, it feels like the continuity is there. It does feel like, though, we should have gotten this probably after three, and before we got to four, just because I think it would have helped to flesh it out a bit more and give us more of give more density to this world, right? Because there is a lot of stuff, there is a lot of factors, and really this world is dark. Eve is definitely someone who's raised in this world, is brought up in this world. We see that parallels between her character and John Wick more in more ways than one. That's really really interesting. But look, with that all said, let's get into talking about this movie. The world of John Wick expands with Ballerina, which follows Ana de Armas as Eve Macaro, a ballerina turned assassin trained in the traditions of the Rosca as she seeks revenge for her father's death. Liongate presents a Thunder Road Films and 8711 production, directed by Len Wiseman, written by Shay Hayton, and produced by Chad Stileski, who is basically the creator of the John Wick universe. The film stars, as I mentioned, Ana de Armas, as well as Angelica Houston, Gabriel Byrne, Lance Reddick, Catalina Sandino Moreno, Norman Reedus, with Ian McShane, and of course, Keanu Reeves. This film is hitting theaters June 6th, 2025. A huge thanks to our friends at Cineplex Pictures for inviting us both out to see this movie for review. So yeah, let's start talking about it. As we like to usually talk about these films, we usually like to give a little bit of structure. So we're going to talk about the look and feel, performances, and story. So let's start with the look. Thomas, I'd love to know, what did you think about the vibe of this movie, given that it is part of the John Wick universe?
Well, it certainly feels like it's from the John Wick universe. There's no doubt
Mm-hmm.
about that in my mind. And the aesthetic is really the biggest part of that for me. It feels like it's straight out of one of the Stahelski directed movies. This one's directed by Len Wiseman. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I'm bringing that up. But I think that it's very nice. It's very dark. It's very brooding. But I will say something I really did like about that vibe and feel of it is we saw a lot more daytime stuff. That wasn't something we saw a lot of in the John Wick movies. Like John Wick
True.
4 took place over the course of a couple days, and there was maybe like 3 or 4 daytime scenes, and they weren't even fight scenes. But we were
Mm-hmm.
getting like fight scenes during the day or in just really brightly lit areas, which was actually kind of a really nice change of pace. It kind of makes it stand out from anything else in the John Wick universe that we've seen thus far.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that what the Ballerina does nail in a lot of ways is the signature Wick aesthetic. I think it's very dark and brooding. There's a brutality to it that feels uh like almost elegant at times as well. And like when we're talking about obviously the look and feel, we have to talk about the action in this, which is just so gorgeously choreographed. And I think the way they shoot it feels so kinetic to the energy, and I think fans are really going to enjoy that, especially if you are a John Wick fan. That is pretty much the draw to that franchise, is these, very elaborate, well choreographed fight sequences. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, yeah, like you said, like the lighting, it ranges from being very moody lighting, and we get like these lovely like tight shots, close quarter combat instances, and I think it looks incredible from start to finish. And I think like you said, they did a great job of bringing that aesthetic into this world, so they feel connected in a lot of ways outside of just, again, having Keanu featured in this movie from time to
Yeah.
time. But yeah, like the natural light, I think that's a great call out. I think that, yeah, we do get to see a lot more of the daytime. This is a world that in the John Wick style, it's always at night. Everything is dark. It's neon lights. There's a lot of that gets used to kind of help give life to this world. But yeah, it feels very natural.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to jump in really quickly. I just did a quick IMDb search. The majority of the stunt team is also returning from the previous John Wick movies. So, like you were saying before, it definitely feels like it works, especially with those close-up shots, like you said, and the perspective. It all just works really well, and it's very much like a family project in a way. Everybody's kind of just one big family on these movies.
Let's move into now talking about performances from this film. And I think the standout performance, the performance that stood out to me the most, was Ana de Armas, who
Oh,
just
yeah, no
fully
question.
commits. How did you feel about her performance in this?
When she was first cast, I was actually really curious about this because her character, Ana de Armas, is actually replacing someone from John Wick 3.
Oh,
Her character showed up in John Wick 3 because these movies take place between 3 and 4. So
oh,
she
okay.
was replacing like a really small side character. And I mean, I get it. You would obviously want Ana de Armas if she was available. If it's just like a one-off thing, why not? But yeah, I really did like her performance in this. I actually think it's one of my favorites of her career. She
Hmm.
really sold it. You can tell she put a lot of work into the stunt coordination and all the fight sequences. Like you can tell that was all her,
Hmm.
and that she just really gave it her all. But even Eve as a character, surprisingly complex, actually, for someone in the John Wick universe. That's not something we can say very often.
Yeah, yeah,
As good as the universe is, John Wick's a man who lost his wife, lost his dog, and wants to kill people. But Eve is so much more than that. Like, I mean, we can't get into spoilers, obviously, but
sure.
you know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
But Anna gives so much to that, so much depth, and it made me want to root for her so much more. She's absolutely fantastic in this, and I would not be opposed to seeing her return in a future John Wick entry.
Oh, 100%. I think she's pretty much, I think this movie is going to have fans wanting
Oh yeah.
more of her in this capacity, in this
Mhm.
universe. And maybe in some ways I think passing the torch of how this universe can continue if, for instance, John Wick takes a back step, right? Like we are getting John Wick 5. I know we're getting that
Yes.
film, right? But you know, at some point that character's journey might need to just kind of shift, and maybe we can spend a little bit more time with the, you know, the Eves of the universe and the other characters that maybe flesh this out to help give
Mhm.
more quality to the world, because right now we're only really getting like, you know, you threw in Continental, and again, I forgot about that show, but like we're really getting John Wick's perspective and now Eve's perspective, and then this perspective of the hotel. Again, there's just so much more that can be done to kind of give more depth to this universe. But I'm with you. I think, you know, Ana de Armas is on fire in this movie. She brings a raw physicality to this role that just it's very believable, it's gripping. And I think what really stands out though is how she balances the intensity with the emotional depth, because her character is, this film is very much an origin story for her character, so we have to understand her motives, we have to understand her what's driving her, and with that comes emotion, and we see that on full display. And Ana de Armas has been an acting powerhouse. From Knives Out, we think about her role there and
Mhm.
how much she brought to that, the emotion that she brought to that, but also just this sort of calmness that was in her presence in that role. And then we get into something that was like a very small role for her, but I believe she was in which Bond film was it? Was it
Oh, No Time to Die.
No Time to Die? And
She's
like
great in that.
she's amazing in it. And that was like our first glimpse of like her, of being able to see both sides of her, the physicality and that choreo, the ability to commit to the choreography. But there was also like this innocence in her portrayal where she was like, it's my first
Mhm.
time on the job kind of thing. And
Yeah.
it was so much fun to see. So I was really excited when they said that she was going to be doing this movie, and especially with what came with it, the idea that this is going to be a film that's focused on a lot of intense fighting with a lot of, you know, standout choreography. And I think like, again, you just understand everything from her character's perspective, the pain
Mhm.
that she's gone through, her drive. She gives you such vulnerability, and I think she proves that she is capable of leading a film in this universe, which is why I think that it's so you could literally pass the torch to her, and she could be the new central figure of this universe. But you know, it was really exciting to watch her on her own, and just commanding the role. She was so locked in, and I applaud her for that commitment.
For sure. And I mean, if you're going to be in this franchise, you have to be locked in because, like we said, with the stunts, everything, there's no room for error. You are either 100% in or 100% out. And Ana de Armas is a bankable enough star that when they have to, like you said, when they have to shift John Wick's story, as if I don't know where they're going to shift it after chapter
Yes.
4, like that's another discussion on its own. But
Right.
when they do have to shift it again, she's a
Yeah.
bankable enough star that you can have her lead this series.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now there are some other characters. You know, we do get to see Angelica Houston again.
She's great.
She's great. You know, she's I guess like the mother of the Rosca Roma, essentially a school that is training killers. Which was really cool to get, again, more insight into what that was outside of just, you know, a sort of secret organization that trained killers and so on and so forth.
Yep.
She was fantastic. You know, she brought a lot. Lance Reddick. obviously, this was probably one of his last
It was his
performances.
final on-screen
Yeah.
role. I
Yeah, it
believe
was
he's
his
done some
final.
voice work. I believe he's done a lot of voice work before he passed away,
Mhm.
but this was his final on-screen role. And I don't know if it's coincidental or not. I'm like 99% sure this was intentional, but the way they edited his scene, it felt like when they were like showing Carrie Fisher scenes in Rise of Skywalker, where it's like this person's passed on.
Yeah.
This is like kind of their moment. It's like clearly, it feels like almost like a fan servicey kind of thing. Not like his performance, but like the way they like lead up to it in the
Mhm.
movie. And it's actually really wholesome and really sweet because he did die during the John Wick 4 press tour. A lot of
Yeah.
people forget that. Like he did
Yeah.
interviews and then like the next day he's just gone. And
He
it
was
was
gone. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
so heartbreaking. It was like no pre-existing. It's just happened.
It just
But
happened. Yeah.
it's so great, even though it's been 2 or 3 years now. It's just
Mhm.
great to see him. He was such a fantastic actor beyond the John Wick universe. And
Mhm.
even though he's only got a couple scenes in the movie, it's just it's hard not to smile watching it.
Yeah. And I think he's another, element that helps keep the continuity. And obviously, like you said, it is his last performance. So the fact that they were able to keep that in, and they weren't like, oh, we needed more of him. They just, like they were able to make it work with what the scenes that they've captured with him. And I think that really does help elevate sort of connecting this all together to the universe.
Hmm.
Some couple surprise performances that I didn't expect. Gabriel Byrne, I haven't seen him in ages. And so
Yeah.
here he is. I don't know, like he is such a esteemed actor. This felt like a bit of a downgrade for him. He was just
Oh,
he
for
was
sure.
super generic in
He
my
got a blank
mind.
check. He got a blank check for this one, dude. He
Yeah.
got the blank check. They're like, "We love you. How much do you want to be in our movie?"
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like, how badly do you need money? And here you go. Because again, him kind of going off of like, I felt like his energy was similar, or at least his role might have been similar to that of, I believe it's Ian McShane, who is sort of
Winston.
the Winston, who is sort of the guy that knows it all, and he's involved in the Continental, obviously, and
Hmm.
and runs that hotel. Is he run the hotel? Is that am I
He's the
understanding that right?
manager. He's the manager of the New York one, so it's like different
Right.
branches.
Right. So he's the manager of the New York branch, and we've seen a lot of him through the other John Wick films. Again, another layer that really does keep that continuity. But another surprise for me was Norman Reedus,
Reedus,
from
I think.
Reedus from Walking Dead.
Mr.
Uh,
Daryl Dixon himself.
right, and he doesn't have to do much. He's just himself in all of these roles.
It,
And
yeah.
more so in this one, though. I just felt like
Yes.
he was just
It feels
he
like
was just
Mr. Daryl
Norman.
Dixon.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
exactly. Yeah,
it's like how people say people give Ryan Reynolds flack because he plays the same character in everything he does.
correct.
Norman Reedus is the exact same, but like you said, he is a surprise. But for me, I agree. It's just a surprise that he's not in it more. That's
Exactly.
that's the thing. He's surprised
Yeah.
because he's great. And I was reading that he talked about the stunts in this movie being different from Walking Dead, which were a lot looser, a lot sloppier, kind of like free reign, as opposed to
Mhm,
being like very specific and
mhm,
timed in Ballerina.
mhm.
And it was really cool to see that from him. But man, I wanted so much more from him. I loved him. I was so excited when he joined this movie. I wanted so much more from him.
Yeah, it feels like a missed opportunity not to have him in it more, especially given, again, not getting into spoilers, but who his character is and the importance he kind of plays. I think
Hmm.
that's a bit of a missed opportunity. But let's quickly talk about the man himself, Keanu Reeves. He's in the cast list. He is
Mr.
John Wick,
Canadian.
Mr. Canadiana. He's like, it's funny. You were talking about Ryan Reynolds, and he's just, he is who he is in everything he does.
So
I
is
think the same
Keanu.
could be said about Keanu, right? Like it's I think there was that one film where he played a boyfriend. It was a Netflix film with
Oh,
Ali
always be
Wong.
my maybe. Yeah, he
Yeah,
plays
always be my
himself.
baby. Yeah, and he plays himself, and he's actually like pretty comedic. It was like, for me when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is a bit different for a Keanu character, but maybe
Hmm.
because he's always like the Neo, right? So like,
Yeah,
here he is definitely John
he's
Wick.
John
I
Wick.
will say he was more involved in this film than I thought he would be, or maybe even I would have wanted him to be completely honest.
Really?
I get the idea though that they needed to kind of keep it as a bit of an
Well,
anchor
when
into
the
the world.
subtitle is "From the World of John Wick," it's
Correct.
like Keanu's role in this. First of all, going back to where you said he's comedic, we saw the trailer for Aziz Ansari's movie Good Fortune at CinemaCon,
Yeah.
and Keanu plays an angel in that movie. And you want to see more comedy from him? You're gonna love it. You're gonna get such a
Awesome.
kick out of it when it comes out.
Awesome.
He plays an angel swapping lives with people. It's super funny. But yeah, he does play the same person every movie. But Keanu's role in this movie, and this is gonna make a lot of sense because this is a spinoff. It felt like a TV spin-off pilot where the main character from the original show shows up for like the very first episode, says a couple lines, and then leaves.
Leaves.
That's
Yes.
that's what his
Yeah.
role felt like in this.
Yeah. That's actually a really good point. He kind of, they did treat it like sort of the spinoff, especially when, he does come back at some point in the film, and when he does come back, it's at a very pivotal point. And again, it's treating it like a spin-off character. You intro
Mm-hmm.
him in at the beginning, and hey, he remember him, he's from the original, and here he is. And then boom, he comes back towards the end there. And I think it all makes sense. But yeah, I thought maybe they could have again, had him in the movie, hinted at his character, had him a little more. I was surprised at how much he was involved. I hope that doesn't really give out much away, but to be expected. It is, like you said, from the world of John Wick. He is in this film, and he's credited as cast, so it is to be expected. And a lot of the reason why I think I was kind of, I guess, a little more questioning about how much John Wick was involved really does revolve around the story. So let's talk about the story, because I think this is
As much
where
as we can.
as much as we can, obviously, but I think this is
Yes.
where, for me, where the score kind of drops a little bit in this, because again, Ana de Armas is fantastic. The world building and all the elements of that are carried over for John Wick are perfect. The choreography is fantastic, but I think the story is where this film struggles. I'll throw it to you first, Thomas. What did you think about the story that we got from the Ballerina?
Okay, so let me preface this going into this movie. I
Sure.
think I had a different perspective of this. One of the other things I do on my side is I do a lot of scoops and breaking news on movies, and
Correct.
that means I hear a lot of things. And
Correct.
I heard a lot about Ballerina leading up to this, particularly in that the original cut did not test very well, and basically Len Wiseman was replaced with Chad Stahelski, and it's almost got it reminded me of like the troubles Brave New World went through, in the
Correct.
sense of like this is a Frankenstein story in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things, and that's my biggest problem with the movie. Like you said, it does the world building great, but there are so many elements and so many things where I'm like, did this really need to happen? Did this really need to be placed at this point in the story? Or shouldn't there have been a bit more to this? There's a lot of things that you just see for like a second and then pop up and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So for all the great world building it does, there's a lot of disjointed moments in the story that really bring it down, and they kind of just like dangle a new shiny toy in front of you with, hey, a brand new action scene to make you forget about all the bad plot elements that are just brought in there. But the story is easily the weakest from the John Wick universe for me.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's, again, like I was saying, this is an origin story for Eve as the ballerina. I think, though, this is where this film stumbles is in its narrative. I think the pacing just feels really inconsistent at times. I think moments
Mhm.
that should have hit harder emotionally don't always land, and I think some of the narrative beats and some of the other elements feel very undercooked. Like like, to your point of what you're saying, like if there was a lot of behind the scenes issues with kind of Frankenstein this film, it shows in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
I think, again, going back to our cast, the use of Norman is probably the biggest glaring problem with this. Is
It's
just
the biggest
how he's
disservice.
introduced. Yeah, how he's introduced, how he's handled throughout the whole film. It just feels like it is a representation of post production issues where
Mhm.
they scaled back his character, they scaled back his involvement, and what we got of him is what we got of him based on that. But
Mhm.
that said, I do feel like the positives of the story or the narrative is that it still feels grounded in a world that is rooted in mythology and loyalty, the things that are integral to sort of the John Wick universe and this line of
Mhm.
business that these individuals are all a part of contract
Mhm.
killing. I think that there's a lot that still stays rooted in that, and I think it's still going to deliver intrigue for fans, because like you said, we do this a lot. We watch a lot of these movies. We can tell sometimes when these things are apparent and obvious, which make us raise our eyebrows and maybe question things, and also affect how we engage with the film. But I do think fans will engage with it on the basis of entertainment. I think if
Oh,
you
for
know,
sure.
it's definitely not a flawless film, but for those who are invested in the John Wick universe, it still offers a very satisfying experience. And I think there's still plenty to appreciate. Like, there is a fantastic choreographed fight sequence that involves, I'll just say, water and fire, and that is it. And it is
Yeah.
fantastic, and it was really cool to see. And I think, again, those were those moments where you're like, oh, okay, that's inventive, that's cool, that's something that's different, other than, bulletproof suits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
As cool as like Keanu like shielding himself like
there's something with a
Batman with like a
jacket.
bolt.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's
Like, it's a
awesome.
cape. Yeah,
It's so cool, but
it is cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to your point, the story's gonna be enough for fans. I'll give it this, like, as much as of a mess it can be sometimes, it's still more or less very simple to follow, which is something I appreciate, and it's something you don't see with a lot of these disjointed
Yeah.
Frankenstein movies. It's still
Mhm.
simple enough to follow, and it still gets the job done. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's gonna be enough for fans to follow.
For sure. I feels like there was probably a longer cut with this film, and this movie was long, and it felt
About three
long.
hours long.
Oh man,
The first cut was
wow.
3 hours long, dude. I know
That's
someone who
wild.
saw it. First hours, 3 hours. And this movie,
That's wild.
it already overstayed its welcome, I think, with
Mhm.
like almost 2 hours and 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
I don't even want to know what was cut
Yes.
from a three to make it 3 hours.
For sure. Yeah, that's like 50 minutes that would have gone. But like, there is a there consistency and pacing felt, pretty on par for, I think, about the first half of the movie. And then, as you pointed out, it was that second half where the pacing started to kind of, it went slow and then went fast, and went slow and it went fast. And there was just elements that were dropped that, again, like I was saying, felt like they were supposed to hit emotionally, that we didn't have enough time to really sit with. And I think you know what I'm talking
There's
about in
one.
regards to
It's
that.
the one very obvious moment where I'm kind of like, oh great, and then they're like, they just like
Take it
kind
away.
of like take it away from us. Yes, that's
Yeah.
the right way to put it. And
Yeah.
I literally whispered to you, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like
Yeah.
it was really annoying because I felt like it was gonna be great for so many character arcs, and then they kind of just like, they're like, okay, moving on. And I feel like there was more to that because it was like a very minute one line detail at the beginning of the movie. They bring it up again for like 30 seconds and then it's done. And I'm like, that's way too relevant to just cut out. There was something missing from it.
For sure.
It
I
takes away
think
from the emotion of it.
it does. And I think, again, it kind of stunts your main character, because there is emotional drive there. And when you have Ana de Armas, who's acting on all sides, like she's giving us everything from emotion to just hard-hitting action to even
Mhm.
just like a little bit of comedy here and there, but like it's not so much comedy that it's like it's just more ironic and so on. So like, she's just doing it all. And I would have liked to have seen her character, resonate with some of the emotional things that they were playing with, but they pulled them out so quickly. It was like, okay, well, I guess, that doesn't matter. But again, that said, I think fans of this franchise are really going to enjoy this film. But look, we've kind of outlined our thoughts from a look and feel, performance, and story standpoint. Let's get into our final thoughts and score, which we're going to do out of 1 to 5 ballerinas. I'll throw it to you. Any final thoughts? Yeah.
Final thoughts. Look, this is easily, for my money, the weakest movie in the John Wick universe. I think that goes without saying,
Mhm.
but the bar has been set so incredibly high. I think everyone agreed when John Wick 4 came out, one of the best action movies ever made, period, end of story. And the first 3 films are just as good. There's no way to rank them. That's how good they all
Mhm.
are. And they set the bar so high, and that's a big part due to Chad Stahelski's work. And when you hire someone like Len Wiseman, who has directed Underworld Evolution, Total Recall, Live Free or Die Hard, it's obviously not going to reach the same heights. As much as I love Ana de Armas and as much as I love the action sequences we saw, the story brings it down. That being said, I still had a great time. I'm going to give it, I'm still undecided because I'm not sure yet. But when this comes out, I think I'll have settled between 3 or 3.5 out of 5 ballerinas. I give it a half for someone who died in the movie. Just a half ballerina.
Yeah, there you go. I'm with you. Like I'm somewhere in that range of a 3.5, and I think it would be beneficial to see it again to kind of cement that score.
Mhm.
But look, like we were saying, like the ballerina, it packs in sort of brutal, stylish action that you would expect from the John Wick universe. I think Ana de Armas is the standout in this film. It is her film. She is leaning so hard into everything, and she's just so locked in this character. She can see her commitment. And while the visuals and the choreography do shine, I think the film is held back by really just uneven pacing and a story that just doesn't always land. It does feel like things are missing. It does feel like things were taken out, and what we were meant to feel maybe from an emotional standpoint were pulled back to focus more on the fighting, the choreography, and these really large, massive fighting set pieces. But I do think, though, like I was saying, there's still enough here for Wick fans. I think they're going to enjoy it. I think they're going to absolutely love seeing this world build out. I will say that this film does have me excited for, I believe it's Donnie Yen who's
Yeah, Donnie
doing
Yen's movie.
Donnie Yen's doing a movie, right? So
Yeah, he's
has me
directing
excited for
and starring in it.
and his character was so interesting in
Kane
John
is
Wick.
awesome.
So I'm excited to see more of this world from another perspective. But I would love to see more of Ana de Armas in this role. But yeah, it's totally solid. It's not perfect. But I think it is a great addition to the franchise to help build out the world. So yeah, I'm with you. It's a 3 out of 5 ballerinas. I'm going to say 3 out of 5 now. If I watch it again, I might change my score on Letterboxd. Stay tuned for that.
Did you put it on Letterboxd?
I haven't put it on Letterboxd. No,
Oh, okay.
no, you can't. We're embargoed, man. We're embargoed at this very moment.
Yeah.
You're the only one that I've shared this with, so it'll live on this podcast at the. But that's it. That is it for our spoiler-free review, Thomas. It was quick, painless.
That was quick,
right? You know,
painless. Unlike every victim in Ballerina.
Absolutely, who suffered at her fists and bullets. My God, she was so badass in it. And remember, from the world of John Wick, Ballerina hits theaters June 6th, so this Friday. Be sure to go check it out. And if you enjoyed this review, feel free to subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to write into the show once the movie's out, you want to let us know your thoughts, feel free to reach out to us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT. I still call it Twitter. And on Instagram and TikTok at We Are Geekcentric. Thomas, yet again, I'm going to throw it to you. Where can people find you? Go.
All right, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I still call it Twitter too, but X is just easier these days. At One Take News. You can find us on YouTube at One Take News. You can find us on TikTok at The One Take News. And if you want to email me your thoughts too, theonetakenews@gmail.com.
Awesome. Yeah, dude. All of those details will be in the show notes for our listeners to find. I'm very grateful for you making the time to join us for this review, man. As someone who's been learning more the ins and outs of this industry and doing press stuff, you have been a great friend and a great ally to kind of help educate educate all of us on how this all works. And yeah, you do some great stuff, man. I'm very humbled that over the past year, you and I have become better friends.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. It's really great to have someone who I can talk to about these things in the industry. There's not a lot of people like that, especially at my age. The age discrepancy has obviously become a problem, but I'm happy that isn't an issue here. I'm always happy to talk to you about movies. And I remember you told me 2 years ago when we first met that if I ever wanted to come and talk about movies, and I was just really happy to come and talk about movies.
Always
today.
Welcome, my friend. Always welcome. It's always great to have you. You know, you're a young one in the game, but you're killing it, man. You're killing it.
Thank you, my friend. So are you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, look, we have a ton of other episodes for you to enjoy, including our most recent spoiler-free reviews for Disney's Lilo and Stitch, as well as for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Both of those are available on podcast feeds. And hey, we also have a ton of interviews available both on podcast feeds and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/geekcentric, like our most recent interview with Tia Carrera and Courtney B. Vance from Lilo and Stitch. Me and Nate had a great in-person conversation with the two about this latest reimagining of Lilo and Stitch. Again, that is available both on podcast feeds as well as on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Geekcentric. Summer movies of 2025 are kicking off. We are super stoked and excited for everything that we have in store. Hopefully more interviews, definitely more reviews. So stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Thomas, thank you so much again for joining us. And to our listeners, thank you as always. We appreciate you. Until next time, peace.